with this very interesting topic, evidence-based ethics and the potential for learning designers. We are also very honored to have very interesting guest speakers who will share with us about what is, to help us answer the questions, what is evidence-based ethic? Is it why it is important? And then is there any opportunities for developing evidence-based ethic in Vietnam, and about the opportunities for aspiring learning designers who may come from different backgrounds. And I would love to start by just share with you a very brief introduction so that we can have a brief understanding about the topic that we are going to discuss today. To understand about what is EdTech in Vietnam from an evidence-based perspective, and then after that, we will welcome other panelists for today. Okay. So first of all, I would love to talk a little bit about what is education technology or EdTech. I don't know if anyone here who has been working in education technology or who would love to work in EdTechs. Can you jot down and chat in the chat box? Yes, thank you. So what is education technology? It is actually the abbreviation and often referring to companies that create educational technology, including software, hardware, and very important, the combination of educational theories and practices to facilitate learnings. And in order to do so, but often it is also known that technology itself alone, it's not the golden bullet points to really tackle the problems in education that we have seen for learners and teachers. And this has been echoed in a lot of reports by global organizations like UNESCO, World Bank, and OECD that point out that after COVID-19, a lot of education technology actually, when it's applied not correctly, can actually waste a lot of resources and times for both learners, educators. For example, in K-12 in classroom, the quality of learning time, it's not just only about the technology itself, but it's more about the quality of the teaching and the resources available for the learners and also student motivation or the support learning environment. And sometimes when you give the mobile devices or devices for the learners, it may hinder learning instead of supporting learning because of the distractions. And technology itself, can it really solve the cooperation training within the corporation? While there's a really huge need in upskilling workers, but more than 50% of the employees nowadays, they think that the training is not as effective as they want. They want more relevant content, or the content is more social, and also offer micro learning shorter sessions so that the learners can understand. So you can see that it's not just about technology, but the solution for education and training, it's about more than that. So it's not just a product or technology, but it's also the understanding of content, pedagogy, how you understand how to help the learners learn best, and how to help the trainer or educators provide the information in a engaging, interesting, and also memorable and actionable way. And not only about the product, but also about the service, how you distribute, how you bring the product itself, the solution itself, and how you implement, help the learners learn how to use this product. So all of this comes to the need, the growing need in a global market today to find evidence-based education technologies. And what it is actually referred to the statistically significant effect of different technology solution that really prove that they can improve learners' outcome. And to be able to get evidence ready, first you need to have a logic model. It's a theory of change. It's like a blueprint, a roadmap to prove that how you can create change and create impact for learners or for teachers. And it can happen at all stages, not just at the beginning, but throughout the development stage of all of the startups. That's the second requirements. And then the third requirements for evidence ready, it's the EdTech needs to provide research and impact ready audit data and materials so that experts and third-party researchers can also independently review and strengthen the scientific basis of the product. And the number 4, very important, it's a continuous development of the product feedback and verification from different stakeholders, such as users and investors. And why it is so important nowadays? Because right now, after COVID, especially after COVID-19, when there's a shorter limitation of funding for startups around the world, investors really requires real evidence-based EdTech solution. They will focus the resources for those that can prove that, okay, our product works. And the second very important thing, it's the same for buyers, for parents, for schools, for enterprises and companies. The solutions that apply technology right now is very competitive and fragmented. So it is very important that you have strong evidence to back your product, not just like promises. And you can build your branding and trust from buyers. And the third very important benefits of building the education technology product this way is to have a product decision-making process that is very clear, that you can focus your resources and focus your team energy to build the features that actually bring benefits for the users and bring the benefits for the outcomes. And fourth, very important, it's to help you to go global. And you will see that the stories of 2 startups from Vietnam today, Flyers.vn and also ULAB, will prove this potential if you build the education technology product in the right way. And here I'm wondering if I see here there are also participants from outside of Vietnam and people who aspiring teachers who want to learn more about the education market. So this is some numbers that you can understand about the potential of Vietnam's education technology market as an overview. Right now, we with a very large population, nearly 100 million people living in Vietnam, we have right now more than 750 accounting edtechs. And in the market of Southeast Asia, we are among the top 3 growing and aspiring markets with a large revenues projected at 364 million by 2024, with a growth rate of 44% each year. And even when 2023, 2024 sees in funding for all edtechs around the globe, we still acquire more than 200 million US dollars of new investment in education technology startups in Vietnam. And among all of these startups, there are some members that are featured in the top EdTech Rising Stars in 2024. And how can we do that? Within the market itself, the market is very fragmented with different sectors. And you can, I know that there are some questions before the webinar about what is the market look like and what is the potential. So you can see here it's a map developed by EdTech Agency, updated in 2024, some of the top education technology products. You can see here the biggest market, it's in K-12, in general education, and also it's following by the market for preschool education. And mainly all of the products focus in terms of subject, it's focusing for learning languages. And then a growing number of edtechs right now is focusing on STEAM, that means teaching coding or technological skills and upskilling and technological mindset. There's not so many as many as players in corporation or workforce training or higher education, but this is also a growing market with a lot of potential too. And among the Holon IQ top 50 edtechs in Southeast Asia, 20% of those edtechs are actually from Vietnam. And and you can see here on the list, language learning, tutoring and test preparation, or technology skills is it's the top. Like there are a lot of players in this field. And it also reflects the culture of Vietnam and in Asian country in general, that parents actually are very willing to invest in education for the children. And also people are willing to take part in learning and invest in their lifelong learning. And with this context, is there any like evidence-based edtech in Vietnam yet? And the answer after right now with WICIT, with the International Center for Education Impact, I'm starting to look into the market and have found some education technology companies that already apply for various certifications. And all of this company in this list have actually acquired funding within the past 2 years, even within the winter of edtech investment. So this is a really good sign that developing evidence-based edtech and applying for international certifications really help with the development of edtechs in Vietnam. And for learning designers, it is also required that within the edtechs, if you are interested in developing your career here, edtechs actually needs a combination of different players, a technology innovator. It also needs to be able to build a team with teachers and trainer, learning scientists who understand the background of learning and how to design learning materials that is interesting, and also how to be able to to market the product. And all of these skills actually happens to need a coordinator that can combine and talk to different players and collaborate between different functions of the team. So a learning designer are needed. It's needed, and the skill set of learning designer with the sweet spots of technology, of learning designs, UX design, it's very important. Okay, and also you can see that if you are working in education technology companies, there are a lot of also opportunities for career development. Later on, you can also learning more new skills to develop your career as a product manager within education technology companies, become content creator. That means you lead the content development of learning materials, or become academic director if you do more in terms of curriculum development, or become consultants for different education technology companies. And if you are an edtech founders, or you are a leader in education technology companies, another question would be how you can develop the team when you have limited resources. So it can be very expensive. And also, as my experience of working and consulting for education technology companies, I have found that it's very hard to get access to experts and researchers with industry experiences. So working with another solution is working with edtech certification organizations like ICEI. We will have Natalia here today to share with us more about how they do what they do to support edtechs, and also look for opportunities to, if you have limitation of funding, you can apply for grants from impact investors or actually foundation that support edtechs. And from that, you can also get, if you develop the evidence ready, like framework and mindset, you can apply for international certifications and also get the network with top edtechs and edtech VCs that focus on finding and supporting evidence-based edtechs. So last, I would just share that right now, I am working on a report about Vietnam evidence-based edtechs. And if you are interested to receive this report, you can drop your email here. We will share with you later after this event. And you will also have the opportunity to receive a grant opportunity if you are working in an education technology company in various phases. If you would like to receive a grant from Jacob Foundation to support your process, then please drop us a line. And thank you so much for the first listening to understand what is evidence-based edtech. And right now, I would love to invite our second speakers who will share with you her vast knowledge from education, academia, and how to support edtechs to build evidence-based ready solutions. Natalia, right now is a professor at the University of Stavanger, Norway, and the Open University in UK. She's also a leading expert and that has developed and support the development of technology for early childhood education to support the children's reading development. She's also an author of a book called The Future of Self, and also an edupreneur with the combination of academia and industry experiences, and the co-founder of International Center for EdTech Impact. It's a consulting organization with a network of over 1,500 top educators and researchers in education technology that has clients such as Kahoot. I don't know if anyone, I bet that nearly everyone, if you are teachers and educators, you know about Kahoot, EdTech Impact, and venture capital firms such as Rich Capital, Bright Eyes Ventures that support edtechs. So welcome, Natalia, on the stage.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Tam, and many thanks for the invitation to this wonderful webinar. I'm really enjoying it so far. Tam has provided this great overview of the importance of evidence in EdTech, and it is really a topic that is dear to my heart. As a researcher, I've been looking at the impact that individual technologies have or don't have on young children's learning. And I have seen that it's an area that has grown in the past few years massively. There is a lot of interest, not only from the investors and the funding agencies, but very much from the parents and the teachers who want to understand whether the technology that their children are using actually works. And that is the mission behind our center that I'll tell you a little bit more about today, to make sure that the technologies children have in their hands and learners are using are based on some solid research, some solid evidence, making a positive impact on learners. So my work has been very much in the space of young children's technologies, but I have the pleasure and privilege of working with some very smart and bright people at the International Center of EdTech for EdTech Impact, where we are working across 28 countries right now, including Vietnam, supporting EdTech organizations with their impact building and evidence. And really the mission that we have for the organization is to increase the impact the technologies have on young children as well as older learners. We started off as a small social enterprise in Norway, where I am based right now. And from the Nordics, we expanded to other countries and are now working with investors, philanthropic organizations, and of course the EdTech companies themselves across several regions. Now, because my particular research background is in literacy, so reading and writing, we started with a network of literacy researchers. So scholars and academics who are looking at the impact and design, the learning design of technologies that are supporting reading and writing on young children. But over time, we realized that of course, is not enough. These digital technologies are used not only for reading and writing, but also for mathematics, science, social and emotional learning, positive and negative impact is happening in all these different areas. So we've been expanding the network of scientists. And thanks to our very good partners like GSolent and Digital Promise, we've been able to grow the network of experts who we are affiliated with and who we can recommend to EdTech designers when they want to work with academia, with scholars and researchers to develop their technologies. So now under the foreduimpact.org, you will find the different experts who are affiliated with us and who support the integration or the combination of research and learning design. How can the two work together? How can we match these people who are developing and innovating and who are researching and really diving deep into what works? How can they be working together? That's really at the core of our center. We are co-owned by the University of Stavanger, and as I said, we work across several regions, so there are also other universities affiliated with us. So if you know of a smart researcher who might be interested in being part of our network, let us know. We'll be very happy to expand further. Tam mentioned that we have been fortunate enough to work with individual EdTech organizations, many of which are multi-million businesses that are really making a big impact on learners because they're in so many schools, in so many homes, they're being used. But we also work with specific accelerators and investors and their portfolio companies to boost their impact. And Vietnam is a new country for us, so we are developing the partnerships and relationships as we speak, so that we can have a more systematic approach to how we can support and learn from the Vietnamese EdTech market. Now, I said to you that our mission is to make sure that when young children use technologies, it is for a positive impact, that we really elevate their learning and well-being. And this is something that is not only at the core of my own research interests, but really of many colleagues who have been working in this field and have seen that when young children use technologies, it's not always very positive. If you have children yourselves, you would have seen that sometimes when they download an app or go online and play a game, they are not really learning. It's very meaningless. They're tapping on the screen. There are many hotspots and it's shiny and exciting, but it's not really developing their brain. It's not teaching them something new. It's not expanding their horizons. And that is a problem. We want to make sure that young children are using technologies that are good for them. They do not misuse their data. They do not sell their data for commercial purposes, but that are really designed to make a positive impact on them. And for that, we need to have research. For that, we need to have experts working together with the learning designers so that we build on the best science of how children learn, what's best for their well-being, and what also works for teachers. Because of course, educational technologies are used in schools and teachers are paramount, very, very important part of how EdTech are deployed. So how do we do this at the center? Well, we like to think that we have 4 superpowers. One is the network, as I alluded to earlier. We have this network of learning scientists who we can match with individual EdTech solutions to make sure that there is a close alignment between the domain of expertise of the specific researcher and of the interest of the EdTech company. So when an EdTech company is interested, I don't know, in workforce development, then we would want to have a professor who works in workforce development so that they can have a good dialogue with the company. So there is this close match between the area of expertise of the professor and of the learning designer within the company. The other key aspect of our work is to look at the full evidence cycle. So when we are testing and checking whether the technology works, we are not only looking at the design, but we are looking also at the validation when it is used in schools. How are we testing it? How are we measuring it? We really want to understand the full scale of this. The third superpower is that we are a university spin-off, so we have a very close relationship with universities, and that gives us the possibility to publish research. We very often do reports and peer-reviewed articles that are in journal publications and can be shared more widely, and are securing the quality of our work, the independence of our work. And the fourth superpower is that we really believe in the importance of international approaches and the global standards here. So not only looking at what works in one country, but also what are the best lessons learned from that country for another country, and building on international expertise. There is a lot of excellent work happening both in global North countries and in global South, and there is a great need for combining the knowledge that these different regions in the world have been developing. So we are trying to mediate and facilitate the dialogue between research groups and learning designer groups across the world, really, to try to understand what works best for whom and why. Now, another thing I want to emphasize as we are discussing evidence is that, you know, it's quite a buzzword these days. I want to have evidence, I want to have research, without perhaps necessarily understanding what we mean by that. So as Tam explained, evidence for us really means having a proof, an independent proof that your technology has been verified by third-party researchers, scientists who have checked the impact of the technology in several domains. And by several domains, we do mean the 5 E's that are listed here on the slide. So 1 E, so to speak, is efficacy, answering the question, does the solution work? In that strand of impact, we are looking at whether technology, when compared to another technology, or when compared to no technology at all, is still making a positive impact on learners. So what researchers do when they are looking at efficacy studies is that they take your technology and then they take another technology that is similar in design, and they'll be looking at the effect of one versus the other. Or they take your technology and they design the experiment in a way that there is another instruction happening in the classroom, and then they are comparing what is the added value of having your technology in the classroom. So efficacy studies are very narrowly focused on looking at the learning outcome within classroom environments or laboratory environments. They are often perceived as not necessarily fitting the teacher-led design. You know, they're very much driven by this understanding that needs to be an experimental and randomized controlled trial design, but they are very important as part of understanding the impact of technology. So we do look at efficacy studies, just like we look at the effectiveness studies, the second E, when trying to understand what works, what is the evidence. And there the key question is, could the solution work? You know, if we put this solution into the classroom with some smart teachers who are using it together with the children, could it work? Because the teacher will come with their professional expertise, with their pedagogy. How can that work together? And in those studies, we are working closely with teachers. We are studying and observing how teachers are using the technologies with their children in the classroom, and looking at how it can then scale also to other settings, not only in one classroom, in one small village, but also in other settings, so that we can really understand the effectiveness on scale. I briefly mention also equity, ethics, and environment. Equity is looking at who does the solution work for. So when researchers look at evidence for equity, they want to know how your solution is addressing groups of children, groups of learners who have been marginalized. So that could be children with special needs, children with disabilities. That could be any group that has been racially or ethnically perceived as not being the major group within the classroom. That is the equity question. We want to know whether the solution has been designed and implemented in a way that includes everyone. Ethics is looking at how the solution works. So there we want to know, is your evidence of using solutions that are deploying data actually based on the latest and best regulation, legal frameworks, looking at how we are processing data, where the data are stored. I mean, technologies are thriving on data. It is because of the possibility of collecting personal data that you can be personalizing and individualizing experiences. So it is inevitable that there'll be data collection happening. So we want to know how the data is being processed. Is it really ethical? And lastly, in terms of environment, when we are looking for evidence of positive influence on environment, we want to know, is the solution sustainable? Are you actually, as a learning designer, as a provider of solution, making a positive impact on the environmental issues around us? And this might be a question that you have not thought about as a designer. Maybe you have been thinking more about the specific solution, the specific technology you have, but actually we all need to care about our environment. We are living in an age where the environment is in a very poor state, and we all carry responsibility for making a positive impact on our planet. So that is why we also care about the fifth strand of impact, environment, here. Now, if you're interested in getting to know our experts, you can find them under edtechexperts.no. What we do when we have a learning designer or an edtech company that comes to us, to the center, and says, look, we would love to work with some experts in this specific area. Who do you know? Can you, put us in contact? Can you build a team for us so that we can work together and perhaps together can apply for funding, or together can go to an investor, can build our technology with this expertise? And that is when we sort of do this matchmaking. And that is my favorite part of my job, when, we get to meet exciting people who are experts in their own right, in their own area. And we put together this dream team of learning scientists, of subject matter experts, curriculum developers and experts, as well as developmental specialists, if it is the case of young children. And when we construct this dream team, you really see a difference. You really see that is then when the technology is turbocharging its impact. It is not one or two individual founders trying to do everything on their own. It is a team of the best experts sourced from across the world to work on a specific problem with technology. And that is also of interest to investors. It is also of interest to big funding agencies who want to see the best, who perhaps don't want to see a very small solution. They want to see a big change that technology can make if the right people are behind it with the right processes. I will just briefly mention this because for those of you who are not from the research side, you may not necessarily have seen how the efficacy and effectiveness studies work together. So when I said at the beginning that one of our superpowers is to be looking at the full evidence cycle, what I meant by that was that we are not only concerned with the importance of designing a specific technology in terms of making sure that it works as it should, and making sure that there are no bugs in it, and that it doesn't break, and that all the features are working as they were designed. That is all good, and that happens at the sort of first ideation stage and design stage. It is also very important to think about what happens afterwards, right? So when you're planning your research design, that you actually think about how to scale the technology, how to validate and evaluate over time. And our researchers very often then design a research roadmap with you so that you know where you are and what is important at which stage. We do the budget with you so that you know who you need to approach for funding, or how you can create the funding within your organization, so that there is an ongoing relationship with research. And that way you can be really learning about what works and what doesn't work over time as you are building the technology with impact in it, embedded strongly in the design. If you're interested in our reports, you'll find them under wiki.no/reports or for eduimpact.org/reports. As Tam mentioned, we have done some work with various global agencies, with our partners, Digital Promise, in terms of developing the knowledge around the impact domains, so the ethics, the efficacy, effectiveness, what is out there in terms of research. We have summarized the literature, we have provided some pointers, some suggestions and recommendations, and all that is freely available from our website. So feel free to dive in. And lastly, there is this specific opportunity we have for companies from Vietnam, and that is essentially a grant that we can provide to a company that is registered in Vietnam and that is looking to develop what Tam was explaining in terms of the evidence ready. So I will not repeat what she has already shared. I will only emphasize that if you are interested in this, you will need to let us know fairly soon, by the 15th of September. And all we need to know is whether you are ready to be working with researchers on developing your logic model, theory of change, theory of action. We'll help you to do a rapid evidence review and look at how it corresponds with your solution design. We will do the research roadmap that I mentioned with you, and you will get a nice report at the end, as well as the possibility for getting a certification from our sister organization, eduevidence.org. So this is something that we are able to do thanks to the support from the Norwegian energy company Lyse, and we have a grant available for a company from Vietnam. So please let us know by the 15th of September if you're interested in this. So I'll finish here. There is a contact for my colleague, Anna Chermakova. We are very happy to be contacted on that email address or on the info@foreduimpact.org that is down here. And of course, if there are other questions you have today, I'm here until the end of the webinar. So please do contact me, do ask questions or any comments you might have. I'm very excited to be learning from you today. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Natalia, and I hope that everyone, if you are from education technology, I think that this is a really great opportunity, and thank you for sharing the more in-depth background of how companies or learning designers can support their companies to develop evidence-based products. And you might also start thinking that, oh, this sounds a little bit of complicated. But actually, it's not. So right now, I will not let you wait any longer because we will welcome two education technology from Vietnam, and they have been seeing great success in their development of the product with a very strong mindset of building evidence from the start, and their story will be a great demonstrations, and also they can share with you a real industry story of how you as a learning designer or education technology manager or founders can develop evidence-based products. First, I would love to introduce Cedric. He is the co-founder and right now CEO of ULab. Previously, he co-founded and led One-on-One English, and one of the top in the list of top 50 top edtechs in Holon IQ, top edtechs in Southeast Asia. And with experience working in different companies like Wall Street English, Deep Knowledge Group, or Uber, he has a strong foundation in both strategy, operations, market research. But before becoming a founder, he actually studied about science in education and social policy from Northwestern University. And ULab, the product, has been going to global markets with more than 20 countries in after just 4 years with a really strong product foundation. So please welcome Cedric, and thank you so much for coming to our webinar today, Cedric.
Thanks,
We look
Tam.
forward.
Yeah, I appreciate the introduction. Thank you for the kind words, and thank you, Natalia, as well, for your presentation as well. So I think I'd like to kind of start off a little bit with a story, a little bit more about my background, to kind of share how I reach, well, why I am where I am today. And then I'm happy to talk a little bit more about what we do at ULab and how we use evidence-based science of learning, essentially, to build our product and apply it in the market. So before I share the slides, basically I'm French by nationality, but I'm originally adopted from Vietnam. I've only come back to Vietnam since about 8 years ago. Before that, so after I was adopted from Vietnam by a French couple, we were living in the UK, and then we moved to Africa, where we lived in Kenya, Botswana, and Ivory Coast. And then after that, my family moved to Thailand, where they started the franchise Wall Street English in the Thai market, and then eventually they replicated that model in Indonesia, Hong Kong, and then lastly in Vietnam. And then essentially the Vietnam business, we exited that one in 2017. So in terms of background, as Tom mentioned, I did go to Northwestern. I think for many aspiring learning designers or instructional designers, one thing that I can share with you is that learning in all its forms is extremely important, especially in a world of AI. And to be very honest with all of you guys, when I started college at Northwestern, I actually originally started off as an engineer. And then basically I went to every school within my university to try to figure out what I was good at and where my interests basically intersected with my talents. So I then moved from engineering to economics. I hated economics. I tried to create my own major. That didn't work out. It got rejected. And then finally, I landed in education, where I found my kind of, let's call it my calling in a way. And then after I graduated, I had the choice of working in some traditional industries, like consulting and banking and all of that. And then I just decided that that wasn't the life for me. And so I moved to Vietnam, and that's where I started my journey in education. And essentially, I worked with my family to grow and exit the Wall Street English business in Vietnam. And then once we did that, I launched my own venture, like Tam mentioned, which was one-on-one English, where basically we were trying to replicate a model similar to a company called VIP Kit in China, but we wanted to bring it for the Vietnamese market. And then long story short, after that, essentially we did okay, and we were approached by a large education group who was interested in acquiring our company. Long story short, we did not accept to do the acquisition. The reason why was because we realized that because they were interested in buying us, then maybe we were solving a problem that was big enough in the market that meant that we should just keep going and do it ourselves. So for anybody interested in instructional design, learning design, or being involved in learning in all its forms, I would say the opportunities are broad. As humans, even though we live in the age of AI, learning will still keep its place, and it's still more important than ever, I would say, especially as now we have to compete with computers. So how do we evolve in a world where AI also is very present? I don't have all the solutions for that, but what I can do is talk to you guys a little bit more about what we do at ULab now. And feel free to write in the chat if you guys have any questions as well. I'm more than happy to answer them as we go through this. So please bear with me 1 second as I share my screen. Oops. Sorry, just bear with me a second. All right, here we go. Okay, so for today, what I had prepared is kind of sharing a little bit more about how we approach building a product and designing a product for learning. I know I saw in the chat that a couple of you folks are interested in launching your own companies in the EdTech space. And while I wholeheartedly agree with a lot of things that Tam and Natalia have shared, the reality is also that you also have to build a company. So you not only have to build a product, but you have to build a product that solves a need. And you have to build it in a way that hopefully also allows you to actually build a real business, or at least start a company that can be sustainable in the long term, so that you don't have to only rely on investors and venture capitalists and so on. So for full transparency, at ULab, actually, we have not raised any funding at all. We are a 100% bootstrap company. And the reason why we decided to do that is because oftentimes investors are not very well aligned with education. Oftentimes in venture capital or angel investors, they want to make a lot of money and they want to make a lot of money fast. And sometimes that doesn't really work very nicely with education, because in education, or when it comes to learning, we're trying to help people to essentially fulfill their potential and really add value and help them to become the best versions of themselves, essentially. And much like health, learning is like going to the gym. It's painful. So, if you want to make money quickly, I would say EdTech is maybe not the right industry for you. But if you're looking for a calling, if you're looking to do something with your life that you think has meaning and that adds value to people's lives, then I think EdTech can be very rewarding. So to share a little bit more about what we do, we have built basically infrastructure and technology to allow anybody who wants to operate in the education space to essentially run their operations and to build a knowledge or learning business. And specifically, in our case, we focus in particular on hybrid learning and blended learning. The reason why is because there is a lot of literature and science backing blended and hybrid learning. There are different interpretations of blended and hybrid learning, but for the most part, it's been scientifically backed and shown to be more effective than, for example, only e-learning as another alternative model. And we believe that the intersection of technology and humans is still the best combination. So that's why we built basically a learning management system, if we want to keep things very simple. I'm actually going to skip ahead a little bit. So we built a platform which we call Learning OS, and we called it Learning OS because we wanted to build the learning operating system for learning. When we were trying to build our own education business, we saw that it wasn't easy to essentially find technology that would allow us to build a knowledge or a learning business. And we tried to build our own. We failed. This is actually our version number 5. So we had to go through multiple iterations and basically fine-tuning in order to get to where we are today. So don't believe in stories where people build a product one time and it's perfect and done, and then you guys become a billion-dollar company. In practice, that doesn't really work that way. So as Tam mentioned, though, we have historically focused a lot on making sure that we apply the science of learning and good pedagogy. So my background is in education. My co-founder also did a master's in education, and essentially then went to become a teacher as well. And almost entirely all of our team have education and master's degree in education and so on. So I think one of the things that has set us apart from the start is that we're not just a bunch of engineers or business people who are trying to build a product. We are educators who are looking to solve a problem that we have encountered ourselves, and we're trying to apply this for other educators and other education companies in the broader market to help them so that they don't need to build these solutions. Basically, we wanted to do the heavy lifting for everybody else. So very quickly, essentially, we built this kind of this LMS or learning platform, if you want to think of it in a more simple way, where we provide the tools essentially for education companies and educators to have everything they need, or at least a lot of it, in order to be able to do the most important part, which is the delivery, the execution, and ensuring really good learning outcomes and in general positive outcomes for learners and users. And again, this took us 4 years to get to this part, but it took in the background, probably another 5, 7 years for us to even get to where we are today. So as Tam mentioned, we are in 21 countries. Today we train over 200,000 paid users all over the world, and we've had to accommodate to different types of learnings, different methodologies, different types of deliveries. And so it's very difficult to build a tool that kind of covers all of that. And obviously it's impossible to actually do it 100%, but we've really tried to marry technology also with the human aspect. So again, a lot of you guys are considering entering instructional design, learning design, which is fantastic. At our company, actually at ULab, we also employ a team of over between 20 to 30 instructional designers and learning designers. And honestly, they're one of our most fun and interesting teams. And I think what's very rewarding about their job is that they get to essentially work with lots of different clients, lots of different companies, and they're exposed to different ways that these companies are trying to deliver learning or knowledge in various different forms. So, your jobs are very important, and I think they're going to continue being very important. And just so you know, it is true that many ed tech companies also recruit in learning designers, instructional designers, and so on. So if you're into this, please continue. We need you guys. I'll skip over this, but basically we work with a couple clients. You may recognize some of these names. I can share this presentation with folks later if you guys want to take a look as well. So for us, as I mentioned, hybrid learning is our bread and butter. I'm going to kind of give you some stats around hybrid learning, but essentially most indicators suggest that it is an effective way to deliver and provide learning. And so we really push that for most of our clients. So we work with education companies. We also work with corporates. And in both cases, we almost always try to make sure that whatever we do will ultimately deliver good learning outcomes. Because at the end of the day, if we're not doing that, which is the bare minimum, then really what is the point? So why do we choose hybrid learning? Because empirically speaking, one of the things that you may know or have heard of is this famous forgetting curve. And essentially, hybrid learning helps to reinforce learning and retention and so on. And again, you guys are welcome to take a look at this later. There's a lot of literature on this, but essentially that is our position, and that we, as consultants, when we work with clients, advise our clients to basically implement things that work. Sometimes I have corporate clients that come to me and tell me, we just want some e-learning, just throw in some quizzes and whatever. And then we have to tell them a hard no, because we don't want to do something that doesn't work. We don't want to take their money. And then in 6 months, 1 year, they come back to us and say, why isn't this working? So, I think even for yourselves, for those of you who are considering starting, education companies, it's important to get the pedagogy right and make sure that the impact is there and that, it's backed by science. But at the same time, you also have to deal with real humans who, need to be motivated. You're dealing with clients, with many stakeholders involved. And so, I would say the learning aspect and the delivery is one part, but it's also, if you're going to start a venture or you're thinking about starting a venture, then you also need to think about the business side a little bit, because at the end of the day, what's the point of having a really amazing tool or technology or piece of content even if nobody is going to use it, because ultimately you can't, distribute it, you can't get it out in the market, or just nobody cares about it. So my word of advice is the number one reason why startups die is because of lack of product market fit. And you get product market fit by, number one, building a product that works, but also a product that solves a big need or a big problem. And don't underestimate that, because that is 90% of why most startups die. So if you want to avoid being in the graveyard, I would really emphasize that. Actually, I'm going to skip all over this stuff as well. But essentially what we've seen from hybrid learning, so as we've seen since COVID, as Tam mentioned, the world has changed, and a lot of companies now are encouraging remote work. And therefore, people want more flexibility in the way that they learn as well. And so we try to build a solution and a tool that would allow our clients to basically be able to have the flexibility that they want and to support their employees or support their teachers and end users, but at the same time to deliver a product that actually works and that is tested. So as Tam mentioned, yes, we We've gone through the Education Alliance Finland certification because we wanted to, demonstrate not just to our clients, but to ourselves that we had built a piece of technology or tool that was actually relevant and useful. And we've gone through other certifications as well, but I actually can't remember them off the top of my head. So yes, super important. You need to get it right. But at the same time, you also need to make sure that it gets into the hands of people who actually need it, which I think is what Natalia touched on, which is more the equity and giving the ability for people to access your technology or your tool or your content in a way that you can have, a positive impact on hopefully as many folks as possible. So for us, it's a lot of focused on, in this case, my team has prepared a deck mostly on corporate training. But again, we also work more with education and enrichment companies. And so I think the overall kind of our overarching theme is that we're trying to deliver a product that is both engaging, that is useful, effective, and is easily scalable, which is why we try to marry having a content team that can build strong pedagogical, materials and combine that with technology, and then combine that with instructors who have experience and knowledge in their fields to deliver a solution that kind of, is an all, not really all in one, but can kind of touch all of these kind of major points. So that's how we've approached this. And so far, we've gotten good traction, and hopefully, we'll keep doing that. And we're very proud to be able to bring, Vietnamese technology to the world. Vietnam is starting to be on the map, as Tam mentioned at the beginning, as Hung or Tam, I forgot, mentioned in the beginning. So yes, I think Vietnam in the next 5 years is going to continue gaining prominence in the education world. Vietnam already has very good scores in many disciplines, and I think now we need to help the Vietnamese market with all things related to soft skills, because knowledge will be covered by AI, and therefore we need to also focus on ultimately what makes us human, which is how we interact, relationships, how we work together, how we collaborate, and so on. So that's my kind of spiel for you guys. Feel free to raise any questions in the chat, or feel free to add me on LinkedIn. Always happy to answer any questions and advise you guys as best I can. Thank you.